would the state of the MCU be like, superhero movies and movies in general be like, if Iron Man had been a flop? Well, if Iron Man had been a flop, it's very unlikely that we would have the MCU as we know it. Marvel Studios, the original version of it, was an independent studio. They had a distribution deal with Paramount, but they took out a loan directly. Like, they look, what characters do we have access to? Who do we have? Okay, and they went to loans and they made went to banks to get loans and they made pitches. Here's the characters we have. Here's what we're thinking to do. It's not like they had this big bankroller if things flopped. It was kind of, they needed a hit. And Incredible Hulk, the one they thought was probably going to be more successful, wasn't really a hit. I don't know what, it's always, movie math is a little bit tricky, but it's definitely not an obvious money earner based off its budget, how much it brought in. Things have changed since then. I don't know, marketing, I don't know, but it's not an obvious money maker. And so if you say that this one also flopped, there's a trickle down to that of part of even what elevated Hulk was that a month before, 6 weeks before, this big gigantic hit film came out that everybody loved. And so Hulk would have probably done even worse if Iron Man hadn't come out. And then Iron Man 2 comes out, doesn't have the best reputation in the history of the MCU. The reviews weren't as strong, but it was another massive hit because they were building off of a hit film. So what happens if this, we don't have this thing flops? And so then you don't have Robert Downey Jr. becoming the most famous actor in the world playing this almost on a singular part. You don't have that happen. So I just don't think that the MCU kind of peters out. I don't know what it turns into. I don't know. There's all this stuff where, Disney doesn't buy Marvel Studios if they don't see a hit franchise there. But they did. Pretty quickly, they're like, let's get that for the strategy that Bob Iger had. So that doesn't happen. You don't get all of this shared universe craze that we've had. And you probably, you wouldn't have all these other franchises trying to create a shared universe. And you'd probably still have different people trying to do individual stories. I don't think you'd have anything as big or as exciting as the MCU, but we probably would have more interesting takes on individual characters, more overt flops. So much of the good and the bad of the MCU is that for a long time, you really got everything in this pretty safe zone. The low wasn't very low. Highs could get pretty high as part of this universe, but they're all kind of part of the brand. Whereas if you remove the brand that has a really good system or had a good system for over 10 years, take that away and you'll get more garbage way down here that's way off the rails, but you'll get some really interesting stuff up here too as individual projects. I think a lot of what Infinity War is so cool because it's the culmination of this big gigantic thing. Whereas The Dark Knight in and of itself is just a very cool thing. I don't know if that's entirely clear, but as a insular film, The Dark Knight, you can just watch it as this Batman crime thriller. It works. But over here, Infinity War, it works as the culmination of multiple franchises all coming together in a very cool way that there's not really much comparable to it anywhere else in cinematic history. They're cool in very different ways, and they're awesome in different ways, and they're my favorites for very different reasons. And so I think you'd probably would get more Marvel-type cool things. Across the Spider-Verse is a very cool thing that we would not have if Disney had control of Spider-Man. But everyone's give Spider-Man back to Marvel Studios. Give him back to Marvel. Give Spider-Man back, Sony. Do that, you lose the Spider-Verse films. Because that's not what Disney does. That's not what Marvel Studio does. And so if you didn't have Marvel Studios, we'd still get comic book movies. But you might get you'd probably get a even weirder, crazier Doctor Strange movie that it's not part of a franchise, it's its own weird thing. Would be my guess.
Most of these clips are pulled from my Patreon live streams. I do about 6 live streams every single month. For $2 per month, $20 per year, you can get access to all the exclusive videos and live streams. For $5 per month, you get your name on my end card. At the top tier, you get a 30-minute video chat with me each month. The link down below in the description has more information.